Hello, Year 10. In this week's work on quadratics, we are going to be reviewing the work that we did in Year 9. So we're going to be looking at how we factorise a quadratic before we progress into something more challenging, the next step of quadratics. And by the end of the week, we are going to be solving a variety of quadratic equations. So let's start by getting those brains awake by looking at some work from the previous lessons. Can you match the two bracket problem to the correct expansion? So I've got 4 two bracket expressions. I have got 4 quadratic expressions. Can you match each one to the correct answer? Pause the video here, see what you think. So let's go through the solution to this. Maybe one or two of you will have anticipated what I've done here. We will see. So the first one, x plus 6, x plus 3, if you multiplied it out and collected terms, that would match to x squared plus 9x plus 18. The second one, if you multiplied this out, that one is the x squared, take away 6x plus 5. If you multiply this one out, it is not this. If you've matched it up with this, you have been caught out by me. It is x squared plus 5x take away 14. So that one did not match this one. I'll come back to that in a moment. And x take away 6, x plus 4 is equivalent to x squared take away 2x, take 24. So we just talked about how x plus 7, x take away 2 is actually that. So what would x squared minus 5x take 14 look like? Well, that would have to be x take away 7, x plus 2. So very similar to that expression, but with the signs the other way round. Now, the purpose of just quickly showing you this and reminding you of this is because today we are going to be working from our quadratic expressions back to our two bracket problem. That is some work that we did out in Year 9, and I will go over a little bit of this work today. So I hope you've been able to print out a sheet. If not, will you make sure you write today's title, objective and date into your book? I'm first of all just going to remind you of the things that we discussed in Year 9. Now, to begin with, this might sound like a little bit of gobbledygook, but as we work through some examples, I'm sure it will all come flooding back to you. So how do you take a quadratic expression and write it back into two brackets? Now remember, the two brackets will always look quite similar in the fact that there'll be an x at the front, there'll be some sort of symbol, a plus or a minus, we might not know which one, and then the question mark will be some sort of number. So how did we go from here back to here in Year 9? Well, the first thing that we did is we put an x in the front of each bracket, and then we came up with a little bit of a rule. We knew that the numbers at the end, these two numbers that are question marks, must multiply to make the C. And the reason why that must happen is because the C comes from the lasts multiplied together. We also knew that the numbers that we chose had to somehow combine to make the coefficient of x, this number b. And then we also had some rules about the signs, or whether it was a plus or a minus in these brackets. And what we spotted there in Year 9 is if C was a positive number, the signs had to be the same. And then you could look at what sign B was to work out, are they both pluses or are they both negative signs? And if C was a negative number, the only way that would arise is from a positive number multiplied by a negative number. So if c was negative, we had a combination of one plus sign and the other one being a negative sign. And it's in that situation you have to be really careful that you get it the right way around. So let's look at some examples and I'll refresh you on the process that we went through. Now, some of you might remember something to do with either or, and what you're doing is you're thinking about the step that we took after that when we started trying to solve a quadratic equation. We are not doing that today. We are just looking at the factorisation process, which is putting it into the two brackets. So we would set our two brackets up. We would populate each bracket with x, or if it was a different letter, whatever that letter would be. In the GCSE exams, more or less, it's always x. We would then think about numbers that multiply to make 12, and I would have suggested you write them down. So 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. The reason why it's important to list them is because it's very easy to miss out a combination if you don't. And you will also see next lesson that listing becomes even more important. So we're looking for a combination that somehow make 8. Well, 2 and 6 make 8. So I know that it is 2 and 6. What do I know about the signs? The plus 12 is telling me they are both the same, and because it is plus 8, I know both brackets are positive. Now remember, one thing that you can always do at the end is go back to this answer and multiply it out using first, outer, inner, last, and making sure that you get the same answer. You can do that mentally in your head. You don't physically need to write it down, but I would do it, and I would do it very much so when the signs are different. Because if there's any question that you're going to get wrong today, it will be those ones. Let's look at my second example. I have got x squared take away 9x plus 20. So I'm going to populate the x at the front of each bracket, and I'm going to think of things that multiply to make 20. And I normally do this in kind of numerical order. So I'd start with my 1 times something, 1 times 20, 2 times 10, 3 doesn't work, 4 times 5, and I've got them all. And if you go through it in that sort of logical order, you're not going to miss any out. Well, which work for 9? Trying to make 9 as well. It's 4 and it's 5. They add to make the 9. What do I know about the signs? Well, the positive is telling me they are both the same, and the negative is telling me they are both negative. Let's look at this third example. I've got x squared minus 6x plus 9. Well, not many things multiply to make 9. It's 1 and 9, or 3 and 3. And of course, 3 and 3 make 6. So we know it is 3 and 3. What can you tell me about the signs? Yes, they're both the same because it's positive. They are both negative. And I could even take this answer and write it a different way. I could write it as x take away 3 all squared because it is the same bracket being multiplied by itself. How about x squared plus 2x take 24? Okay, should be starting to panic. We have some negative signs now. So, 2 brackets. Populate the x at the front of each, and let's think what multiplies to make 24. 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6. Which of those numbers combine somehow to make 2. Well, this is where we need to remember that if the signs are different, they will combine by subtracting. And 4 and 6 have a difference of 2, so it's going to be 4 and 6. I know the signs are different, but I need, when I multiply this out, to be ending up with my outers and my inners combining to make plus 2x. How do you get plus 2? Well, plus 2 is plus 6 take away 4. If I got the signs the other way round, that sign there would be incorrect. Let's look at x squared minus 13x take away 30. What numbers multiply to make 30? Well, we've got 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, 5 and 6. Now, which ones are we going to use? Well, there's a little bit of a problem with this one, because I see 2 different ways of making 13. So which one is it? It all comes down to the fact that the signs are going to be different. So I'm going to be looking for the pair that subtract to make 13. So it's 2 and 15. This doesn't happen very often, but it can. So just something to be aware of, and another reason why you really need to check your answers with FOIL. So I know my signs are different. Which way round is it? I'm trying to make negative 13. Negative 13 is negative 15 plus 2. Final example, we have x squared, take away 8x, take away 48. So again, let's think about the numbers that multiply to make 48. 1 and 48, 2 and 24. 3 and 16, 4 and 12, 6 and 8. But which ones are going to find us the 8? Well, 4 and 12 have a difference of 8, so it's going to be 4 and it's going to be 12. We know the signs are different, but which way round is going to give us the negative 8. It's negative 12 plus 4. So do go back to my instructions. You will find a link to this PowerPoint where you can access the questions. One thing that I will say is questions 1 to 12 are relatively straightforward, because a lot of these questions you will immediately see all of those plus signs. So that's going to make all the brackets have plus signs in them, and you're not going to have to think too much. So if you are running out of time, do progress onto the following slide, questions 13 to 32, because there is more challenge in those questions. Remember to spend the last 5 minutes checking your answers, and be honest with yourself. It's very easy just to swap a few signs around and say you got it right, but I want to see how well you are doing. And of course, if you have any problems, you can ask in the Ask the Teacher channel.